It's at 56%,
said the droid at the command station. Admiral Borvant's mind frenzied silently behind his hyper-diffracting eyes, the sensory spheres vibrating in his alien skull as he watched the myriad screens being projected before the command chair. He had to deal with so many evolving situations, and he knew he had to make decisions quickly, but there were so many factors and so many of them in his favor. His flagship, the Confederate Pride, was nearly the equal of the Malevolent, and his own fleet was one of the largest in the entire Separatist alliance. He had been tasked by Count Dooku with defending Raxus Secundus itself. He was not only undefeated, the Sistine Admiral was undefeatable. The Republic would never even dare an attack here. That failing government was ever on the defense, ever scrambling to secure their own holdings. It was clear as day that the heart of the Confederacy would be safe here under his care till his death in the far future. All of these things were true. And yet...
now it's at 50%,
said the droid. The Admiral blinked. How long had he been thinking? He needed to be making decisions, but the factors, so many factors. Okay, order the 8th Battle Group to move to Point Delta and... the Admiral started to say.
Battle Group 8 has been destroyed,
the droid interjected. The Admiral blinked again, and began reassessing. Fine. Combine whatever is left with the 5th and 4th Battle Groups, and send them to Point Delta to begin clearing the enemy to create a forward rallying point. We have to prepare for General Grievous's reinforcements. Have the reserves from the other hemispheres converge on us and begin assaulting the nearest enemy flank, said Admiral Borvant. Also, vent sections E through Q into space. That ought to stop the enemy boarding party dead in their tracks, he added.
Admiral, it's not really a boarding party, it's just what?
Began the droid. Whatever it is, it won't deal with the vacuum of space well, so do it, the Admiral snapped.
Well, sheesh,
the droid said, relaying the orders and venting the sections. Good. Now have Battle Group 40 through 50 begin missile bombardment of that enormous...
Admiral, the only battle group out of the ones you mentioned that is still responding to orders is 44. All other ships are drifting or destroyed,
the droid informed. I thought you said we were at 50% fleet cohesion, the Admiral yelled.
Well, we were, but now it's 43%. A lot of ships have just stopped responding to orders for some reason,
the droid said.
Also, on an unrelated note, the intruder is still advancing. In fact, it's coming faster now,
the droid added. The Admiral groaned. He did not have time for this. Fine. Send in commando droids, droidicas, and seal those sections off. I will deal with what is left later. Let me know when the intruder is destroyed. Otherwise, let me focus, the Admiral said. This enemy was a vicious puzzle indeed. Each ship was a Titan, and they had split up, maintaining no particular formation, which was wreaking havoc with the logic centers of his tactical droids. Indeed, with so little knowledge of what each ship did in this alien fleet and their significance, it was hard to know which ones to single out for destruction, which was proving also difficult. The enemy ships were rugged and armed to a bizarre extent, wielding weapons that Borvant had never seen before. Still, he was confident that their sloppy assault would begin to buckle any second now. His thoughts were interrupted as a loud thump sounded behind him, past the steel doors which led from the bridge into the rest of the ship. He ignored it, giving more orders before jumping again as it sounded off once more. "What is that noise?" he demanded.
Probably the intruder.
The droid said. "What?" the Admiral blurted. "Haven't the droidicas stopped it yet?" he asked.
The droidicas were destroyed seconds after encountering it. The commando droids are about to find it, though. Do you want to see?
The droid asked. The Admiral sighed and nodded his bulbous head sharply. "On screen," he ordered. The droid complied, bringing up a hologram of the intruder, who was in the process of ripping and tearing its way through one of the bulkheads. The figure was a massive, armored monstrosity, 7.5 feet tall at least, and as bulky as a bull reek. And yet, for all that, the thing was agile as well, at least for its size. Each massive gauntleted hand was crowned by a long, burning claw at the tip of each finger. Fingers which it was using to rend its way through the ray-shielded doors of his ship. The claws had fields of their own, fields which burst and frayed the power of the ray-shield emitters like a child's finger might pop a soap bubble. Borvant grit his teeth, his huge brain pulsating as he tried to compute his options. Then the commando droids arrived, hopping and leaping like Jedi as they began firing their blasters into the Space Marine's back. The bolts sizzled and hissed, but did absolutely nothing to the bulky beast of a warrior, who turned to regard them with mechanical contempt, tearing at the bulkhead twice more before spinning and lunging at the commandos. "I had thought they would be more agile," the Admiral mused as he watched the warriors' opening strikes. The acrobatic droids flipped and spun away with ease, and though there was a practice, a grace even, to the warrior's wide, arching sweeps, he was certainly no match for a Jedi when it came to swift movement. At least, those were his thoughts before, in one sudden backhanded swipe, the warrior neatly bisected all of the jumping droids while they were caught in mid-leap. As the pieces of the droids fell all around the red and gold-clad warrior, understanding struck the genius alien admiral.
Wow, how did he do that?
The droid marveled. Before he realized it or stopped himself, Borvant found himself answering. "He figured out and predicted their movement and attack patterns from watching them for just a few seconds," he said. Even as he spoke, he knew he was not doing the warrior justice. He had not missed, not truly. Every single swipe he had taken had been aimed towards making the attacking droids react with exactly that jump. Like dumb animals to the slaughter, he had corralled them and herded them straight into their defeat, having learned everything he needed to know just from what he had seen with his single sidelong glance. The warrior, for the Admiral was now truly convinced that it was a flesh and blood warrior and not some droid, stared up at the camera which was recording him, glowing eye lenses somehow projecting a malice which struck Borvant just by bearing witness to it. The commandos wriggled and writhed around the Marine's feet, torsos halved, arms severed, but heads still intact. Without looking down from the lenses which watched him, the warrior lifted his foot and crushed one of them. The Admiral flinched back, the anger, the raw hostility projected by the act enough to shock him to his core. Who were these people? What in the galaxy did they want? "Shut it off!" he ordered. Nothing happened. "Droid, did you hear me? I said shut off this monitor!" he barked. Crunch. The warrior stepped on another commando, and another. How could he make killing droids look so brutal, seem so hateful? Borvant looked over at the B-1 manning the command console and saw it shivering and covering its photoreceptors. "Blast you! Shut this off right now or I will have you scrapped for parts!" he bellowed.
But I don't want to look at it!
The droid squealed. Crunch. Crunch. "Do it!" the Admiral insisted.
Oh, okay,
the droid muttered, peeking from between his fingers. Crunch!
Ah!
It shrieked, pressing a button almost at random. Instead of shutting the screen in front of the command chair down, it projected it as a larger hologram on the central emitter, depicting the massive glaring marine in high-definition three-dimensional malice to the entire droid bridge crew. Crunch! The crew screamed.
What are you doing, you bullhead? You're making it worse! I said shut it off!
The Admiral roared, throwing his cane at the droid in question and knocking it on its head.
Sorry!
The droid said as it frantically worked its controls with both hands. The image zoomed in on its face, its baleful stare now the only thing that could be seen, but not heard. Crunch.
Wait, I got
The droid said, and finally the image shut down.
About time!
The Admiral yelled.
Send everything! Everything, and I mean everything!
He ordered.
it! Roger!
The droid affirmed.
Now, give me a report on the battle groups.
The Admiral began to say, trailing off as a light suddenly set the distant void silently aflame. The sight left him speechless, celestial fire blossoming out into a golden, haloed sphere before him, thousands of kilometers wide. Flickering auroras came alive along the ray shielding of his ship, plainly visible as ribbons of rainbow fire which wound and spun around his and every other ship near him. It sat there, burning in the place where the Northern Hemisphere fleet had just been, for all the galaxy seeming to resemble a star, breathed out Borvant. Slowly, the ball shrank, diminished, and flickered out, and the Admiral, no longer lit by its unnatural light, seemed to gain hold of his senses once more.
The fleet! What is our fleet strength?
He demanded.
Well, to me it looks like we are now at 22%.
Said the droid, flinching as he did. Borvant was aghast, but not for long, for soon fear replaced everything and anything else he was capable of feeling. Thunk, thunk, thunk. The sound was so close. He stood up, passing through the holographic screens which were projected before him and looking back towards the large door which led to the bridge. Thunk, thunk, crack. Wide scars spiderwebbed all across the surface of the door, but only briefly. Before the Sistine Separatist could draw his next breath, the door shattered like glass, its fragments spiraling out as lethal projectiles. Droids were smashed and sliced in half, consoles crushed and left as little more than sparking ruin. But, by sheer luck, Admiral Borvant found himself intact, though knocked to the ground. Still conscious when the armored intruder strode onto the bridge. His every footstep seemed casual, easy, and yet it trembled the ground, his massive metal boots sinking into the deck plates an inch and a half each time. It was like this thing, this space marine, was too hard, too heavy for this universe. Like an invasive entity, a lion suddenly lost in a world made out of meat and cotton candy. Despite thinking all of this, feeling it, and all the fear that came with it, Borvant swallowed hard but rallied his resolve.
You will never win this battle!
He shrilled at the warrior, his translator automatically translating each word into the guttural tones of the invaders. The Space Marine strode around the spot where the Admiral lay, seeming not to notice him, looking around the bridge, his air that of casual interest, almost indifference. The droids had already fled, those that were still operational at least, leaving the two of them effectively alone.
You might manage to land on Fair Rexus Secundus, but General Grievous will be here in a matter of hours,
he added, climbing to his hands and knees before rising unsteadily. The Marine walked up to the leftmost side of the building, reaching out a clawed finger to trace lightly along the segment of transparisteel there, the treasured sphere of Raxus Secundus lying just beyond. He did seem to freeze, however, at the mention of General Grievous. The Sistine smiled.
Yes, that's right. General Grievous, the greatest tactical genius in the galaxy. Your occupation will only last hours. Your victory is an illusion,
the defeated admiral brazenly declared. The Marine turned back to look at him, hand still extended towards the sphere of the world, and shook his head. At first, Borvant thought he sensed anger in the denial, but was corrected as he heard the Space Marine's voice for the first time as he started to laugh. The bastard was laughing. The Separatist grit his teeth and was about to respond when the Marine spoke, the Admiral's translator converting the words for him. Or rather, word, for he only spoke one, and he spoke it as a question.
Occupation.
Borvant blinked, absorbing the implication of how that question had been phrased, but before he could properly react, the Marine had moved. The claw sparked to life and the transparisteel shattered. Space yawned wide, and the Admiral, along with the wrecked droids and debris, were swept up and towards the sudden breach, though the Marine himself stood stock still, adhering by weight or technology to the ground in spite of the vacuum. Borvant had long feared that he would die, suffocating in the void of space. It was a common enough dread among any proper navy. But the Marine spared him that fate, passing his burning claws through him as the alien was sucked out of his own ship, being diced and emulated all in one swift motion. Davik Thune, chapter master of the Crimson Razors, watched the enemy admiral, or rather his pieces, float away into the void, still chuckling to himself.
Occupation,
he said to himself, shaking his head again. With a twitch of his thoughts, he activated the Vox within his Terminator power armor. Yes, master, said the captain of the ship, the de facto admiral of his fleet, Alarak Norn.
we have a few hours before the arrival of their most respected commander, a General Grievous. Let's ensure we give him something to properly grieve when he arrives,
said the chapter master. Yes, my lord. Should I make ready the cyclonic torpedoes? Asked Alarak.
Nay, we shall not waste such fine weapons on this filth. This shall be done in the old way. Prepare for orbital bombardment. Attack pattern, sins of charity.
Very well, my lord. We will make ready the macro cannons, the bombardment cannons, the lance batteries, and the attack wings. We shall make ready, my lord, to brutalize them without mercy or quarter, as you commanded. Davik grinned, his filed teeth fitting perfectly together in a shark's own smile.
Then let it be done. I grow weary of this weakness. Let us teach these Confederates the meaning of war.